You're listening to Catholic Family Podcast, Episode 2.
But Raphy is a good friend here from Germany, and today we want to talk about manliness, the importance of manliness, why Catholic men should strive to be manly, apart from what society is telling us, kind of the opposite of what they're trying to tell us. And then also, we want to talk a bit about how to be prepared as Catholic men today in case of extraordinary circumstances, which we hope won't happen, right?
Yes.
Which I'd say probably, I think the key is we don't want this to be a negative thing. We don't want this to be like, oh man, the end of the world is coming. But we do want to stress that it's important to be prepared and be ready, and that preparedness is Catholic and it is manly. So I guess the first question, I want to ask you, Raphy, who I would say, as a friend, you're a manly man. In general, it's the highest compliment I've ever paid Raphy in his life.
I'm very flattered, actually.
Right. But Raphy, why do you think it's important for Catholic men to be manly?
Well, first of all, what are manly properties? What makes a man? And things that come to everyone's mind is physical strength, emotional strength, emotional stability, and providing and taking care of your family and also protecting your family. So this is something which nowadays in our Western civilization seems to become less and less important, because we give away our manly duties to the state. Like, we want the police to protect our family, we want the state to provide for our family. So in case of a crisis, we always rely on the state, and we always rely on the money from the state in case that we lose our jobs. But we take it too much for granted. But actually, it isn't granted. Can happen very easily that this is all taken away, and then we still need the skill set to protect and provide for our families. Right,
and that's exactly right. And I think people will maybe see the title of this episode or hear what it's about and think, oh, preppers, or prepping, or a safety backpack, or whatever. They get a little freaked out about it and think, oh, these guys are just kind of talking the end of the world. And it's like, first of all, the end of the world, it can happen, and we should be prepared for that. But second of all, like you say, it's just a good skill set to have, and it's good to be able to be prepared, and like you say, to be physically fit. And I think, how many guys do we know, or have you seen, that struggle finding girls, and maybe part of it's because they're not manly enough?
Yeah, definitely. That could definitely be a reason. And then also in our times, even in our civilized world here that we are living in, there are situations that are very rare, but there are situations where we have a certain time. For example, think about how long does it take the ambulance to come to an accident. It takes 5 to 15 minutes, and in those minutes a lot of important things can be done to the victim of an accident. Where you do CPR, where you do other things, where you stop the bleeding, some arterial bleeding and stuff like that. And also when you think about a robber coming to your house, or somebody attacking you in the streets or somewhere outside in the countryside, it takes 10 to 15 minutes for the police to get to you and to help you. And usually that's too long. And in those 10 minutes, you have to be able to protect yourself, to protect your family, and to do what's necessary.
And that's what we want to talk today a little bit about, again, being prepared for an extreme circumstance. And we want to go through kind of 4 steps of that being prepared. The first one being physical fitness. The second one being the skills necessary to survive. The third being having a plan and having a network in place for people you can trust. and the fourth being literally what to pack in a backpack. And I think, again, when we look at this strategy, that's kind of an insurance policy, right? This is all insurance. This is what you get in case something terrible happens. You don't want that to happen. We don't think it will happen, but it's like an accident. Like you say, it's something that might happen. You want to be prepared in case that it does. But I think it's really important, again, to stress that it's so important to be manly, to be fit, to be prepared, to have skills, to have friends and a network, and to be a leader, and in all of these things that are important in everyday life, if it's planning for the end of the world or not.
Yes, an interesting point that you brought up with the insurance. We pay so much money for insurance for so many things which are very unlikely to happen. We have insurance for our house if it burns down. I haven't seen many houses burned down all over the villages and towns that I've been. So it seems to be a very rare thing, but we still want to be secured against this. So why don't we prepare for some case which is unlikely to happen and hopefully won't happen, but will be devastating for us if we are not prepared.
Right, and as you know, Raphy, I'm not against this idea of preparing for the end of the world, but I've given you kind of a hard time about your preparedness, your emergency backpack, and all of these things. But crazy enough, I think it was 3 years ago. It was a winter of, I want to say 2017, because I think it was before I got married. And really, here in Germany, we get much of our energy from nuclear plants. You tell the story. You know the story better than I do. What happened in this winter?
Yeah, that was so we have a mix. Our grid relies on a mix of energy where it originates from. So some nuclear power plants that you want to shut down, then coal plants, and also oil plants, gas plants, and so on. And there was a case where there was a fight. I don't know exactly what it was. I think it was Albania and Kosovo involved, and Serbia involved. Those countries don't like each other, so they had a fight around some gas deliveries and gas pipelines. And anyway, so due to this, there wasn't enough gas delivered to the plants, and this also affected the grid in Germany. So the frequency was going to a dangerously low level, the frequency of our electric grid, and was very close to failing. And once the grid fails, the grid in Germany fails, and maybe then the grid in Europe might fail as well. And this might have a very, very devastating effect, because it might take weeks or at least many days to bring up the grid again. But if there's already chaos everywhere within a couple of days in Europe, it might be hard to get the workers, to get the qualified people to the plants to actually work on the problems and bring back the grid.
And it was within like a few percentage points of failing, right?
Yes, it was pretty close.
Which is a crazy thought. I mean, it's one of those things. Like you say, when you are in an accident, you assume that the police are coming, that an ambulance is coming. You have this assurance that someone is coming. So we have this assumption, this assurance that we will have power, that we will not lose power, that we will always have electricity and water. And as we saw, that's a pretty scary assumption. Now again, you don't sit here in fear. That's not our point. We are not saying sit here and quake and fear for the end of the world, but we can see that in a very practical way, these things can happen. I mean, these things really can happen, and you can lose your power, and you can lose this sense of security, and you've got to be prepared. And this is only one scenario, and that's something. Well, we'll talk a little bit about the different scenarios, but the key in this entire idea again is being prepared. What does it hurt? What does it hurt? I mean, what does it hurt being prepared? I mean, how long, Raphy, do you think it takes? How long does it take a family of three? So I have a wife and a little baby. How long would it take us to be prepared enough with food for, what does the government even say? The government says you should be prepared for 3 weeks.
I think 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
They say.
So what does that take? I mean, that doesn't take.
That that takes one time going to the grocery store
with a couple of shopping carts, but all right.
Yeah, probably not too many, because I regularly, because I don't like grocery shopping, so I only go grocery shopping once a week, or maybe once every 2 weeks, and that's just a pretty normal shopping tour. So it's not too much, and so if you want to be prepared and you don't want to fill up shopping cart after shopping cart in one day, then just take a little more each time that you're going to the shop. Just take a little. You want to have one package of spaghetti, then take 3. You want to take one can of beans, take 3, and so on. So it's not going to the shops and taking piles of toilet paper or things like that, and especially don't take any unnecessary things. But being smart about it and preparing in time and doing little steps by little steps, because usually the big steps are the steps that keep people away from taking them, because it's much more effort.
And what is, and I mean, going, or I guess staying on topic, but what is if you know the power is about to shut out, what's your step? What do you do if you fear it? You see the steps coming in the next few days or even hours. What do you do?
It depends on your level of preparedness. If you feel it's coming, number one priority would be food, because that's something which runs out pretty quickly, and then it also depends on the season. If it's summer or winter. If it's winter, firewood should be your priority, and having a fireplace in the house, because that's something which can kill you fast. So hunger can kill you fast, and even faster the cold can kill you. And
I mean, probably water too, right? So water could be a problem if the power.
Yes. Depending on where you live, it's more or less of a problem. In Germany, we have a lot of lakes and a lot of rivers, so getting water is not the biggest problem. The problem would more be sanitizing the water. So there you need some knowledge. And there again, having some firewood that can help you boil the water, that's already pretty much enough to get safe water to drink.
Right. Well, I think that's one of those simple skills that maybe some people take for granted, in saying, yeah, if you have water that you don't know if it's safe, if it has bacteria, that you boil it. Now, I don't know if everyone knows that. I mean, but these are the things that we're going to kind of talk about. That these are skills that you need to learn, just to know. I mean, these are things that men, especially men who are fathers or who are husbands, who have even girlfriends and people that they care for, parents, whoever they're caring for, they should know these things and have a very basic idea of how to care for their family and how to care for people who might need them to protect them. And go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, and if thinking about the skill sets, if you have the skill set that you know how to treat water, how to purify water, how to sanitize it, then, for example, you just boil it. That's a skill which is very cheap. It costs nothing.
Right.
And so I'm against hoarding tons of water in the basement, because maybe the water is even getting bad if you don't store it correctly, and also you might run out of water eventually, or you might have to leave your house, and then you have to get your water from a different source, and you don't know how to process it. And so it's always better to have skills instead of gear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's why we want to talk about it. So again, the 4 things we want to talk about are physical fitness, skills, planning a network, and the backpack. Now, yeah, I think the physical fitness is one that, again, just purely taking out all of the other stuff, taking out all the end of the world, all the power grid, any of this stuff, just saying that doesn't even happen. I mean, I think we both totally agree that you need a certain fitness level as a man, period, right?
Yes, definitely. There's so many cases in which you need your physical fitness, and if it's just normal life, moving from one flat to the other, doing a hike with your family, and all sorts of stuff, and it's fun to be fit, to be able to do things, and and you're way more attractive for girls as well. And that's something which we shouldn't underestimate either. And it's also something there are so many daily situations and also extraordinary situations where you need your physical fitness.
Well, and we talked about this earlier off air, but we talked about how there's kind of this mix of men. When you're physically fit, you're more confident, and when you're more confident, you are also more attractive. So it's this whole package that if you're looking to find a woman, if you're looking to get married, these things are important, and they're not just important for the woman. It's not just that the woman needs to look at a 6-pack abs and say, "Oh, that's what I want." That's not what it's about. It's about the man being manly. I mean, it's about the man having the confidence of saying, "Hey, look, I can take care of myself. I can take care of a woman," and the women can see that. They see that this man can take care of me. It's not about the 6-pack abs. It shouldn't be, at least. I mean, maybe sometimes it is. It shouldn't be. And I think that's what it's about, and that's the mindset you got to have, that it doesn't have to be this perfect body, but you got to be able to take care of yourself and take care of a woman. And they see it.
Yes, definitely. And you wouldn't believe how attractive women find it if the man can carry her.
Yeah.
That's a simple thing, but that's the first rule I wanna shout out here. So every man should be able to carry his girlfriend, his wife.
Right. And so, who knows the size of your girlfriend or wife, but maybe you got to be really strong. But the point continues that, I mean, this is really deep down natural in us that this goes back to, thousands of years. If you believe in evolution or not, whatever you believe, I mean, we instinctively, men are here to protect. Women want to be protected. That's just how we instinctively feel. And so women, of course, they would think, okay, if we are in the wild together and running from a dinosaur or a person or whatever, this man has to be able to, carry me or my children or protect me. And it's vitally, vitally important. And I think, it goes also with not just physical fitness, but also being able in a certain point to be able to protect yourself and protect your loved ones.
Yes. Because that's something. An assault happens in a time and usually in a place where there is no police, and it takes some time, even in the best cases, for the police to come. And even within 10 seconds, so much can happen, and so many people can get killed depending on the weapon and the skill set of the attacker. And so those seconds are critical. And there, it's really critical to have situational awareness to see difficult situations, dangerous situations coming, and then react accordingly. And being able to handle yourself to save your family, to save your wife, your kids, your friends, whoever is with you.
Well, I've never taken any martial arts classes or anything. Now, I had a bunch of brothers, so I'd say in a lot of ways I'm probably fairly capable, but I can't honestly say for sure. I mean, I've been in a couple fights, so I guess, I'm fairly capable. But I guess my point being that, I think to know that you're ready for these situations, it's probably easiest if you have taken classes, right? So, I mean, it's almost like being in the military, that they literally prepare you mentally to say, if someone is coming at me, attacking me, I've been through this before. All right, my instinct, not even instinct, my training actually can supersede my instinct to run, right? So your instinct sometimes is to run, but if you have a family, you can't. And so you need sometimes training, or you at least need a mindset to, hey, whatever happens here, I'm not going to tuck tail and run because someone needs me to protect them. And so again, these things I'm not saying everyone needs to go take a Taekwondo course or whatever, but why not? I mean,
yeah, I wouldn't do Taekwondo.
Oh, yeah. Well, what do you do? Krav Maga?
I would recommend Krav Maga or MMA because they're the closest to real street fight. So that's my personal opinion. Boxing, kickboxing, things like that are good too, and anything's better than nothing because even if it's not as effective, it's still a physical exercise, and you learn certain skills that might be helpful. And another point about doing martial arts, especially in a team, or if you do it with your brothers, it also makes you humble because because it's not like you watch a YouTube video of some badass dude showing you tricks that you do, and you see them on the YouTube video, and you think, okay, now I know the trick and I can do whatever I want with that, and you think you have the skill, but then actually practicing with other people and actually finding out that other people are, even though they have the same skills, they might be slightly better because they have a better range, they are a little stronger, they're a little faster and stuff like that. And that really makes you humble and makes and improves your knowledge about and your skills to actually judge a situation, when to fight and when to run, because you know your skills better, and you know the skills, you can more accurately judge the skills of others, and that might really help you to decide, should I run or should I stay and fight.
Right, and just in physical fitness too, and this is a really important thing to remember as Catholics, is that if you look at the saints, and especially the austere monks and nuns, and the greatest saints that we've ever seen were the ones who most often did difficult things with their bodies. Now, sometimes this was fasting, sometimes it was, flagellation, sometimes it was very difficult things. It wasn't necessarily always, kickboxing or whatever, but it was stuff that really challenged them physically and mentally, because that preparation of your body helps with the soul when you use it correctly. So, I mean, if you're walking, even if you're hiking up a mountain, you can use that to help strengthen yourself spiritually. I mean, this is what the saints did, and they would kneel up at night, all night, and pray. Now, obviously, the most important part of that was prayer, but the second part of it was the physical side. They gave themselves physically so that they could strengthen themselves, internally and spiritually, and you can't take that for granted either. That's really important. And I think when you gain weight, when you're especially overweight, especially with no reason, which, some people I'm sure have some reasons, some people don't. And if you don't have reasons, this is oftentimes attributed to sloth. This is a sin. This is a bad thing. And this happens. It's okay. I've put on more weight than I should too. But if you know that, then go and get fit, right? I mean, become more godly. I think that, and if it's doing, Krav Maga, or if it's doing whatever, just being fit, no matter what, is a good thing. And I think, as Raphy says, it's good to be able to protect your family too, no matter what. I mean, any circumstance, you don't know. I mean, this is a crazy world right now. I mean, in America, you've got these Antifa thugs. In Germany, you've got plenty of other issues with whoever else is causing trouble. I'm not going to say it here because maybe we'll be banned, but there are problems all over the world, and you need to be able to care for yourself in crazy circumstances. So,
yes.
So the first point, as we said, then the first point is physical fitness, and ideally being able to protect yourself.
Yeah. Yes, physical fitness. I want to start with the main excuse that people have about working out is, I don't have time, and when I come home from office, I'm too tired and everything. And yes, I know that I do have an office job as well, and the office job can wear you out as well. And you come home and you think you're physically not capable to do a workout, but that's not true. It's your psyche that makes you think that. And so do it yourself and try it out. For me, it works almost every time. You just start with a light workout, and after 5 minutes your fatigue is gone, and you can do a tough workout in the end. Or even if you don't, then just do a light workout. It really frees your mind, and you feel much better. And also if you're feeling kind of exhausted for whatever reason, it's very often it's just psychologically exhausted, and then do a workout. Go for a walk, go for a tough hike outside in the mountains or something. This really helps to free your mind and to get more focused on things. And pretty often, that's something I learned during my time at university when I was studying, and I had a difficult problem and I just couldn't solve it. And I just didn't get any further. And my instinct told me to keep working on it, get it done. But sometimes it helped to just go outside, go on a jog for half an hour, and I came back and I could solve it, no problem. Because during jogging, my mind was going on, even though it was unintentionally, but it still was going on in the back of my mind, but more freely and more creatively, and it really helped to solve the issue.
Right. And I mean, I have kind of an issue that way with prayer oftentimes. I have a hard time, really paying attention while I pray the rosary when I'm kneeling. Not always, but sometimes it's really a struggle to just keep my mind motivated, I guess. But for me, when I go outside and I walk and I'm in the fresh air or I'm under the trees, it just helps. It helps me to have a clear mind, to be able to meditate, to pray. And again, these are vitally important things. And I think also, I really think for optimism. And I think in our time these days with the coronavirus and all these political issues in a world that's a mess, I think we desperately need optimism. And I think a lot of the pessimism comes from social media. It comes from TV. It comes from movies. It comes from not getting enough exercise. It comes from just not having, I don't even know, enough blood flow, enough, I think we just sit around and we don't do any, I'm speaking for myself sometimes too, really. I mean, and I get down and then, heck, I go out for a walk. It's like, I come back and I'm like, I don't feel so depressed. It's really, it's that easy. And I mean, I think it sounds like it's the stupidest, simplest thing, but go for a walk, right? Go for a walk. Go do 10 push-ups. It really matters.
Yeah, start with something light. I mean, you don't have to decide for a 60-minute workout. You can just say, okay, today I do 10 minutes, and that really helps. And that's the first step. And after this 10-minute workout, you might want to go on, or you might want to do the next day 20 minutes, or you might just want to do 10 minutes each day. That's still better than doing nothing, and it really helps.
And if you have any questions about physical fitness or anything, go ahead and leave a comment on this video, and maybe I'll give you a contact with Raphy. We'll see, depending on your on how much the comment matters and how much you really want it. But we do want to help. Raphy has some really good workout. And honestly, too hard for me. But if you are a little more physically fit than I am right now, but either way, like Raphy says, I mean, just keep it simple. Just do 10 push-ups and walk around the block. That's a good start. And really do integrate it with prayer. I think that's a really good idea. I mean, if it's 10 push-ups and then 10 Hail Marys, I just don't think you can't lose. I mean, that's a good way to end your day or to come home from work. Do 10 push-ups, do 10 Hail Marys and get back on whatever you have to do. And I think that's a good lesson for any case, any scenario. But again, as we want to talk about too, we want to talk about, the scenarios, the worst case scenarios too. And as we say, if you are having to leave your home, and we'll talk about a little bit more later, if you have to desperately go and survive in the wild even, you got to be able to carry stuff. And this is kind of what Raphy wants to talk about too, this extreme circumstance in surviving kind of in the wild. And what was your recommendation for that? For someone, and again, we're going to talk about this later a little more with a backpack and whatnot, but if someone really is serious about this, what do they need, do you think, physically? What is the goal for them physically? So
I would say kind of a minimum would be, as I said before, you should be able to carry your wife and you should be able to do 20 miles per day with your backpack. Depending on how big your backpack is, how much gear you need. But that's something which you should be able to do for several days in a row. So being able to do 20 miles per day for several days in a row. And also what you should be able is to do, I would say at least one pull-up so that you can pull yourself up over something, over some cliff, some wall, some whatever.
And Raphy and I were saying too that we recently did a pilgrimage that was about 20 miles per day for 2 days, and it was very difficult. But we had some ladies who were in their 40s and 50s who went along and finished it. I wouldn't say with no problems. It was very hard, but they did it. So it shows you don't just panic and say this isn't possible. I mean, it sounds crazy, but it's doable.
Yeah, if some ladies in their late 50s can do it, then there's no excuse for some man in his 30s to not being able to do it.
Exactly. And we should say too, we're not only talking to men. Obviously, any women listening too, especially if you are unmarried or single or whatever your circumstance, you also obviously have to be prepared. Now, I think probably for women, more of this is going to come down to plan and network. I personally, that's how I believe. But obviously, if even if you have a plan and a network, you still have to be physically fit. So that goes for you too. I mean, obviously, you can't be slovenly and fat and then try to survive in the wild because your husband can't carry you for 20 miles probably. So, there has to be some give and take there, obviously, for women too. It's also extremely important. And obviously, too, women who are physically fit are also more attractive to men. This is just very basic.
Yes.
Natural. Yeah, this is just how life works. So, it's not about having the perfect waistline for men or women, but yeah, be basically fit, be ready to, in shape to bear children. And again, these are very natural things that we all naturally want from our mates. Okay, next up, skills.
So I want to say another point about physical fitness. So, because I mentioned the lower limit, that was being able to carry your wife the 20 miles per day for several days, plus doing at least one pull-up. So that's the lower minimum that everyone should be able to do. Every man should be able to do. And but there's no upper limit, because you cannot never be too fit for it. And there's also always, and you can never be fit enough for it. I'm not fit enough either, because I could still carry more gear. I could still carry more stuff. Maybe once I have several children, I might have to carry one child, 2 children, 3 children, at once because of injuries, because they're too small or something like this. So there's always, you can still get better. And if you're getting physically more fit and more fit and more fit, it always helps. So there's no upper limit. So do what you can. Don't get stressed out that you need to be extremely fit or something, but it really helps. Keep that in mind and don't stop at some point. Always keep moving forward, getting progress, and so on.
And again, it perfectly balances spiritually. It's the same. If you ever feel like you are in the right place spiritually, you're not. You are absolutely in the wrong place if you think you've made it. You are on the path to hell if you think you've made it. And I think it's the same physically. Always push yourself. Always try to be better. And spiritually and physically, I think that's absolutely right. Okay, next.
Yes, and
okay, go ahead. Last one. Go for it.
And don't worry about a few pounds too much. It matters how capable you are, what you can do with your body. And if you can run very fast and run very long, it doesn't matter if you have a little too much fat on your belly. It's about what you can do, not about how you look.
This is so true.
You will immediately, when you're fit, you will look better even if you have a little more fat than you could have. So don't go for the very skinny type where you can see every muscle or anything. It's about what you can do.
Totally. And this is and unfortunately society has really taught us for so long that you have to have this flat abs, and you have to it all matters on the scale. It all matters what you weigh. This is just absolutely bogus. That's just not true. Now, again, there is a limit, of course, but you're totally right. It's more about what can you do? What does your weight stop you from doing? That's totally the question. It's not about who cares if you weigh 200 or 250 or whatever. If at 250, come on, look at some of these special forces guys. These dudes aren't skinny. Some of these guys are huge. Some of them are small too, obviously, but it's all types. It's just a matter of, okay, can they run for 30 miles and then beat up some bad guys? That's what matters.
Right. Yeah. That's it. And it's very important that you also work out with exercises which are functional. So don't do isolated exercises like lifting weights and stuff like this. Do start with workouts without any equipment. Find something on YouTube. There's so much on it on YouTube, and that's the best. Push-ups, pull-ups, squats, and squat jumps. Those 4 exercises are pretty much anything you need. And then you can go on and do other exercises too, to not always do the same stuff and to have more fun and so on, and to develop some other muscles as well. But don't do isolated exercises.
Right. Good. All right. Are we ready to move on?
Yes.
All right.
I think so.
Up next. Okay. Skills. So again, physical fitness, very important, and really kind of together with that. I think they work very well together in a way, is having the skills necessary to be able to survive. Now, this is a hard one because there are almost unlimited amounts of skills, obviously. I mean, you can't, like physical fitness, there's no limit from what you can learn, obviously. But I guess the key thing we want to talk about here is what are the key skills you should just know? You just need to learn how to be able to do this. It doesn't have to be the end of the world, but even if it's just going camping with your kids, what are the things you got to know?
So first of all, skills are something that you have, and they don't weigh a lot. Maybe they weigh a couple of grams in your brain, but you always have them with them. You cannot lose them. Okay, you can lose them if you get shot in the head or something like this. But apart from that, you always have them with you. It doesn't matter what you're wearing and what backpack you're carrying and so on. You always have them with you. And even if you fall off a cliff into a river and your backpack's gone, you still have your skills. It's very similar with physical fitness. Okay, you can lose physical fitness easier than you can lose your skills, because you might break your arm and your physical fitness is gone within a second. But the skills, but both physical fitness and the skills is something which is very secure or relatively secure on your body, and you cannot easily lose it. And it also means that you don't have to carry so much gear with you. So let's get to the skills. Which skill is most important? And I would say starting a fire. That's the number one skill, and that's what in every survival course, in every survival book, this is the number one skill that is taught there, how to make a fire. And this starts with making a fire with matches and with lighter, which is comparatively simple, but many people still don't know how to build it, how to build up a fire, what kind of wood to use, right. That you have to use very dry wood, that you have to start with very small twigs, and then you care about your fire, you really care a long time if it needs to be for your fire so that the fire gets stronger and you can come with the bigger logs, and then in the end it's going by itself. And So that's the number one skill that you need, because that might save your life in especially in the winter, and also in the summer if you want to cook something, if you want to grill something on the fire. There's so much more food that you can use if you have a fire. I did a very impressive survival training this September, and we weren't allowed to light a fire and in the forest where we were, so we were very limited to what food we could find from the forest, because we couldn't use any animals, any insects, nothing like this. So we could only use some roots, some nuts and so on. So those were 5 days with not much food. And if we would have had fire, we could have eaten like 2 or 3 times as much. So that's the first skill. Second skill, I would say, which is very important, is building a shelter. And building a shelter which keeps you dry, which keeps the rain out. And that's also a skill which is not as easy. Everybody thinks, okay, I use some branches and I put some leaves on top, but not many know that you need something like 8 to 10 inches of leaf layer on top of your shelter, so that the rain doesn't get through and so on. And there's nothing worse than laying under your shelter in the night and there's no rain in the evening, and you think, yeah, everything's fine, and then in the night you wake up and you're getting soaked by water, and you don't have the time and neither the light to rebuild your shelter and to improve it.
And I think again, I think comparing this again spiritually, I think there's a real balance here. To me, I really see the comparisons of how this works with, prayer life and spiritual life, and with literally being able to survive in the wild. I think it's like, if you're physically fit, it's the same as prayer. You're willing, you're there, you do it. But I think skills, literally being able to pray, knowing prayers, knowing different, acts of reparation or different things. It's similar. I mean, these things, you can survive in the wild just by having strength, right? Like you say, you can probably survive a little bit if you don't have strength at all, but it's the same spiritually. If you don't pray, yeah, you're less likely to go to heaven. If you don't know prayers, then you're also less likely to go to heaven. So because you don't often pray. So I think that they really go kind of hand in hand, that you can see, I really do believe, and again, Raphy is much more into this than I am. I have not gone on 5 days of Bible training. I totally admit it. I haven't. But I really do honestly see that the mix that you could really compare this to faith. And I think that I bet you anything, if you did one of these courses or try it on your own or learn these things, that I think you could develop yourself also spiritually. And I think that, again, we really want to get that point across, that that's most important. These physical things, they're all important, but of course, the first thing is saving your soul. That is obviously, I guess I shouldn't say obviously, but that is the most important thing that we want to get across. But with it is also taking care of yourself physically and taking care of your family and just being ready, just being prepared. And the skills that you need, as we say, they're limitless. I mean, really, there's no end to what you might need, and that's something else that. I mean, how do people learn these skills, right? What can they do, literally? I mean, I guess first step is literally, I guess you can go and watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, it's like with prayer, doing it. So practicing it. So you practice your prayers, you're doing your prayers that makes you fit in a spiritual way, and that will, so in normal times you might get through your Catholic life with a limited amount of prayer, so with your kind of limited spiritual fitness. And it's the same in with your physical fitness and with chaotic times. When it's getting tougher, you need improved fitness, physical fitness, and in spiritually hard times, you need improved spiritual fitness. So that's very very similar. So first point is do something. So with physical fitness, go on YouTube, find a workout, get a book and do something, or just go outside, do something that you wanna do. Take your backpack, go running, whatever. And it's similar with prayer. You find a prayer book, you pray some prayers. You might want to go on a retreat. You might want to do contact your priest for some other spiritual exercises and so on. And that's what you need to do. You shouldn't only do it theoretically. You should actually start it now, not next year. And
so, I mean, and I guess that will get a little bit into our next point, which is having a plan and having a network. And I think you would agree with me when I say that this is a lot easier to practice and to do with other people around you. Again, the same with having the faith. It is obviously easier to practice your faith and to have a good faith and to have a good prayer life when you have other people around you who will also do it with you and who have that same spiritual and morality that you do. And it's the same, I think, with this. So I think it's probably coming to that next point. These skills, it would be obviously nice if you can get these skills with other people, right? I mean, with people who, even if they don't know, they can go out and experience these things with you and kind of learn these things, because it's kind of hard on your own, I think.
Yeah, it's more fun, and also different people have different talents, and you can always learn from other people's, even if none of you has the skills yet, and you face the problem together. You have idea A, and the other one has idea B, and idea A plus B gives you the solution. And it's much more fun. It's more fun with other people, and you also have more of a commitment. If you do it with other people and you decide, hey, every other month we do this, or every weekend we do this, or how often ever you want to do this, you have more of a commitment, and you're more likely to keep doing it and to actually commit to it.
And again, to bring it back spiritually, you can absolutely do these together. Go and do a hike, and while you're on the hike, pray the rosary together. I mean, these things they're nice, they're fun, they're enjoyable, and they can totally be spiritually beneficial. And I think that's what we need. We need to seek that. We need to find people who are in this with us together. And maybe whoever's listening to this needs to be the one to lead this. Maybe you need to go out and say, hey, friends, let's go up to the mountains, or let's go wherever you live. Doesn't have to be mountains. Go out to somewhere and hike and build a fire. And if it first means you got to watch YouTube, that's fine. That's okay. But then go do it. Like Raphy says, don't just be, on the theoretical side where you're like, okay, cool, I've seen it. Now I know it. Yeah, right. Go try that. That's a much easier. It's like reading the lives of the saints and be like, oh, so, this saint prayed for 5 hours straight every day and then went to heaven. Okay, cool. Okay, yeah, sure. But it doesn't help if you just read it, right? You got to go do it. It's the same difference.
Yeah.
You got to do these things. And I think totally, if you're listening to this right now, just find some friends who want to get outside and go do it.
Yes, definitely.
And I think that, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
And I would say almost everybody has the time to do it. Just look at what you do every day, what you spend your time on every day. And I mean, just getting home from work, how long does it take you to do something productive? And how long are you sitting around at the computer checking your mails for the 10th time and do something totally unimportant? Or watching some pretty funny but stupid YouTube clips. I think everybody knows that.
Right,
I think
exactly.
It's fun, but
or just
bring you
or playing video games with your friends, or going to a movie with your friends. These are fine. I'm not trying to talk you out of that, but
there are times for those.
Yeah,
there are times for those
totally.
activities you can have during your holidays or on a weekend. You can say, hey, come on, guys, now we do a video game night or movie night or something. Totally okay. That's all right. You don't have to do physical fitness every free second that you have. But also, if you do this, also keep in mind that at other times you still do your duties. You do your duties that you have for your family later on. And one of the duties is also being capable to provide and to protect them. And that includes physical fitness and a certain skill set.
And this is truly, I do believe, the devil and the world purposely, absolutely purposely want to get us out of that. They want us to sit at home and watch movies all the time. They want us only playing video games. They want us fat and stupid. That's what they want. The devil wants that because it is anti-good. It is bad. It is essentially evil. Now, having a little weight, that's not evil. Having, playing video games, that's not evil. I play video games sometimes, but again, it's the idea that I don't need to do anything but this. It's the lethargy, it's the laziness of I'm okay with my world the way it is of watching TV and playing video games. And that's not good. That's what the devil wants. So look at this as a competition too. Look at this as we are competing against the devil in the world, really. I mean, truly. I mean, not just spiritually, but also physically and mentally. And that they're trying to get us. They're trying to beat us. They're trying to beat God. And so go out there and realize that and say, hey, look, maybe I don't want to work out today, but, I'm going to go do it because I'm in a competition against the devil. And this is absolutely the case.
Yes, and interestingly, apart from the skills and exercise and therefore the muscle growth and your improved fitness, there are other skills that you find that you get when you do workouts, when you do learn new skills, and that's pretty interesting. So do it yourself and you will experience it. And one of the main things that you improve is your will. Like when you start with your physical fitness workout, in the beginning your muscles might not grow as fast, but your will get stronger. So that's one of the main things about this as well, that your will is getting better. And that's the same with prayer. If you pray a lot and if you work on your spiritual life, it strengthens your will, and things are also getting easier. Once your will is stronger, it's also easier to do the workouts or to do the prayers and to commit yourself to do a retreat, to do spiritual lectures and stuff like that.
And it's exactly, and again, it's us fighting the flesh, us fighting the will, because our will is sunken into worldliness. It is because of original sin. We have lost the desire to only seek God, and so we have to fight that. So think of it this way. Again, if you do struggle and you don't want to exercise and you don't really care about skills, especially if you don't want to have skills, do it more. You are Catholic.
Yes, absolutely.
That's the point. If you hate it, I mean, I've got to tell myself this too. I don't like working out. I don't like exercising. I mean, like hikes and stuff and sports, yes. I don't like just doing sit-ups and stuff. I don't. But you know what? I really have to tell myself more and more that then I should do it more, because that is giving up your own will. Because our whole point, our whole purpose in life is to give up our will and give our will to God. That's the whole point. That's why we are here. Literally, that's what we learn. The first lesson in catechism is to be here to serve God and to do His will, so we can be happy with Him in heaven. And part of that is giving up our own will. And exactly, if you don't want to do it more. Do it more.
Yes, and whatever you do, what's also very important is to reach the point where you want to give up. You're totally exhausted. Physically, mentally, and you just want to give up. And then it's very, very interesting if you keep on going, if you continue doing it. It's really rewarding afterwards, because in the end, you know you've been at this point where you wanted to give up and you just didn't want to go on with it. It was just too difficult, too hard, too whatever's going on your nerves at this point, or what you can do. But if you go on, you know, hey, I've been at this point and I can go on. And in the next situation that comes, you remember that situation where you were at your breaking point and you know, hey, I can go on, and so on. And that's something which happens on pretty much any really tough physical workout, and also on trips that on long hikes somewhere in the wilderness, when you're somewhere in the in an area where there's no civilization, and usually after a couple of days you reach that point. You cannot take as much food with you as you need and as you want to, so you take as much with you as you can, but so you are hungry constantly, and you're hot or you're cold, it's windy, something's always getting on your nerves and dragging you down, and you get to that point where you're sitting there in the wilderness. And this happened to me in Scandinavia this year, at third or fourth evening. We were done with our hike for the day. We were setting up our camp, and there were so many mosquitoes, and it was driving me nuts. And I was sitting there and I was like, come on, what am I doing here? Why am I doing this? And I mean, kind of I wanted to give up, but on the other hand, I mean, I was in the middle of our hike. I mean, going back would have been the same distance as going forward, so there was no chance of giving up. And also I kind of wanted to give up, but kind of not. And then it really, I sat down, I was really frustrated, but then we ate something, just a little bit, but it already helped a lot. And afterwards, everything was better, and it was good for the rest of the trip. And it's really important to experience something like this, that even if you feel completely down and completely at the end, it's not, you can do it, and you can go on. And I think that's also something in your spiritual life, where you have had very dry phases in your faith, or you've had really difficult times with your wife, with your family, with your friends, or something's really dragging you down emotionally, and it's really important to go through, to not give up. And then in the end, you find it might strengthen your relationship with your wife, for example, if you've been through a very difficult time with her, and you know, okay, we've been through this, we can go through that as well. Yeah,
that's exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. Good. And I mean, that kind of brings us into, I guess not really, but kind of, we want to go next into the plane and the network. How do I segue into this? But no, I didn't quite have a good segue, but for the plane and the network, I mean, the basic plane, this is a really hard thing to talk about in less than a couple hours, because it's a very hard thing to plan, because every scenario is different. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know, where you live. We don't know, who you are, your experiences and all these things. So I think in general, I think we just have to say, being prepared is the big thing, and find your best way to be prepared, and be ready for something to happen. But with the same thing, I guess there are some basic points where, like, okay, if the world goes crazy, if things go really nuts and there's anarchy, I guess that's kind of what I want to talk about pretty quickly. I don't think we need to spend too much time, but what do you do if you see the world going crazy? Where do you want to be? I guess that's the question.
Yeah. So about the scenario, what will happen in pretty much any how do you say, end of the world scenario, that will be that at some point the electric grid will be down and there will be no electricity. So when you look at the grid down scenario, that's pretty much the scenario that you have to consider. So think about what will not work anymore if the grid is down. So think about that. That's already some kind of preparation. It gives you the idea where to start. And what's really important in this case, in the grid down scenario, is to get a stable community, a stable environment, because eventually people will run out of food and they will come for the people that have food. And so you want to have food, but you don't want to be the only one that has food. So that's about planning and creating a network. That means if you're alone, you might not be able to manage this. You cannot defend your house 24/7, and you cannot fight off everyone and so on. And so think about it. How can you create a stable environment? So where you don't want to be is in a big city. I think there's no chance of getting a big city stable in such a scenario. And so it's always better to be on the countryside, being in a little village. And if you're studying in a big city, have a plan of about where to go. Do you have friends which are within walking distance? And walking distance, I mean walking for a couple of days, 20 miles per day. So let's say, okay, is having friends within 50 to 100 miles away from your city, so which are on the countryside where you can go. And then also, if you live in the countryside, are you living in a village which has enough farms, enough people that grow their own food, so that you can be self-sustained, or is it a village where nobody can care for himself? Then you have to think about, okay, where do I go? Can I stay here? Are my neighbors prepared, and so on? And then we come to the really difficult point, is who do I include into my network? Because if I include people into my network which only take advantage of your preparations, for example, you have a network and you're the only one who's preparing, and in the end everybody knows that you're preparing, then they are coming and asking you for the food and for the gear and everything. So be smart about it and think about it, and also think about leadership in a group, because that's also not easy to have a group that you can lead, that you have people that you can get along and that have a similar mindset about how to deal with situations. Is everybody a pacifist, or is everybody a total aggressor and warlord or whatever? And I mean, this will get you into serious troubles. And are people disciplined, or will they eat all the food when they feel like hungry and so on? And so I think that's a very tough question, and that's also a question that everybody has to answer for himself, and look at his friends, look at his family and his surroundings, neighbors and so on. Be smart about it. Don't tell everybody. It's
but I think don't tell everyone your plan. But I think, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think don't tell them your plan. But I think it's really important. I think a point that I'm actually kind of realizing as we talk, that I think it's really important to talk to people about having a plan. It doesn't have to be your plan, but people should be prepared. Talk to everyone about being prepared. I mean, you don't have to be some crazy state of a contest person to to believe that you have to be prepared. I think, again, I'm totally talking from my own perspective, truly. In the past, in the pretty recent past, I've laughed at these things, kind of like, come on, this is kind of crazy. But I think part of it is because you get the image of these preppers like in America who have bunkers and who have all these things. And that, okay, do what you want. I don't care. They can do it. That's fine. But it is a little crazy. That's a little extreme. But I think that's not what it has to be. Just literally, you can just have 3 weeks prepared for food. You need to have an idea for water, an idea where to go. That's not that much. This is not an extreme idea of being a prepper. It's literally just having a plan if things go crazy. And look at the world right now. The world, I'm not saying it's going to end. I don't want to be depressed about it, but we should have a plan. Because, again, it's an insurance policy. It's something you pray and you hope it never happens. But if it does, I would much rather have a policy that says where to go, and that literally to have food. If the world goes crazy, I want to have enough food to last a couple of weeks, and then I want to have an idea where can I go and who can I be with. And you're only going to have a network of people if you know people who are also ready to be prepared. And people aren't going to be prepared unless you talk to them about it. So I think it's a really serious, important thing. Don't go at it crazy. Don't go at it saying, hey, where are your guns? Do you have a tank in the backyard? It doesn't have to be crazy. Americans, I'm talking to you right here. It doesn't have to be crazy, but just have a basic plan, a very simple plan. I think it's Catholic. I really do. I really talk myself into it more and more that I think it is Catholic to have a plan and be prepared, because it is something that we should do, especially as men and men who have families. I really believe that.
Yeah, and start small. Start prioritizing. Start with the most essential things and then move up. And if you have the money and the time to build your own castle and have 10 years of food or whatever, then do it. But especially in the beginning, be smart about it, because you can spend tons of money on useless stuff that you won't need. And also keep in mind, the more gear and the more stuff you have, the harder is it for you to leave your place, to leave your home, in case you really need to, because there might be cases where your village is overrun by somebody who's some gangs that want to get your supplies because they found out that you have a stable community and they want to have all your food and your gear and everything. And there might be a scenario in which you cannot defend your village anymore and you have to leave it. But the more you have, then the harder it is to leave it. So even if you purchase a lot of gear and get a lot of gear, don't forget your skill set, and always keep in mind that all the things that you're buying that are only to have in your house because they're bulky or they're heavy or it's just too much, keep in mind that you might have to leave that behind.
Yeah, and again, it goes back spiritually too, that we are not supposed to be attached to anything of this earth. Anything. Not even your mother, your father, your wife. You love them, but you shouldn't be attached to them. God has to come first. Has to. Must. If God doesn't come first, nothing matters. Nothing. And you see that in the world today. Why is the world such a mess? Because God isn't in the world. Because the world doesn't see God. They don't love God. And because of that, the world is crazy. And I think that's so important, that if you become a prepper or if you just prepare lightly, then make sure you do it with God first. God has to be first. It has to be all in the spirit of Catholicism. Don't just do it and almost worship it. And then you see this. I see this with people who become obsessed with it and become, that is their life and that is their future, and that they dwell on the end of the world and they crave the end of the world. And that's not good. Raphy and I, we could step outside right now and get hit by a bus. And you know what? That's the end of the world for us. That's it. This could happen anytime. Raphy's got to drive home. He's got to drive 2 hours. Do you ever stop to think about driving? The dangers of driving? Here in Germany, you're on the Autobahn, you're driving 180 kilometers an hour sometimes, and someone passes you going 220. You're literally feet away from these people. It's insane. It's so dangerous, and yet people are still worried more about the end of the world and the 3 days of darkness. And it's like, honestly, it's a little silly. So I think we need to be prepared, but your soul has to be always prepared. Geez, how much more important is that? Who cares if you have all the food in the world and you step in front of a bus and then go to hell. You know, I mean, that's obviously the most important. So don't take this entire show and be like, oh, okay, you know, I gotta do all this stuff and then forget God. So that's really the most important. But it really goes hand in hand, as we said. I mean, we said, you know, the physical fitness, it works with prayer, and so do the skills, and so does having a community and people that you can trust and people that you talk to about these things, because they are important things. Now, I don't think we're going to go too much into the backpack because we've already gone over an hour now. It's been good though. It's been a quick hour, but I think, as you said, I think it's good to have start little, right? Start with so give me a basic. I mean, so a backpack. Let's say for me, I'm a good example. If I want to have a very basic backpack, really the starter backpack, what should I have?
Yeah. So here also I would recommend to prioritize and start small. And then what's the number one priority is fire starter. So anything that you can start a fire. And then next one is a knife, or probably knife would even be more important than a fire starter. So that those two would be number one priority. Having a good knife, it doesn't have to be expensive. There are very cheap, very good knives that you can get for like 10 to 15 bucks and that are perfect for this. And then it goes on with what's the next. So you're out there, you have a knife, you can do a lot of bushcrafting with the knife. What's the next that might happen? Okay, the next night's coming. I have to sleep somewhere. So what do you need? A sleeping bag, a mattress, and a tarp. Or a tent. Usually I would take a top because it's more lightweight.
Oh, so when he says a mattress, he's not saying pull it off your bed and put it in a backpack. Just
yeah, I may.
Raphy, I can just see Raphy carrying a backpack and a full mattress on his shoulder.
That's why you gotta be physically fit.
All right.
So no, having an insulated air mattress, for example. So that's the next, and then it comes to your shoes, for example. Having good hiking shoes, having good hiking clothes, having warm clothes, having a cap, gloves, scarf, good socks, especially pay attention to your feet, because those are the ones that are carrying you in those times. And it goes on with other things. How do you cook your stuff? So maybe some kind of sturdy metal cup would be good that you can put over the fire to fry some insects. Yeah. Yum. They're actually much better than it sounds. So
next show with Raphy will be a cooking episode. Yeah. It's spider with rice or something.
So yeah, that's how it goes on, and then depends what do you need. Do you have contact lenses? Do you have glasses? Do you need that? And so on. I mean, you can, with the right skill set, you don't need a lot. You just need your basic things. But if you don't have the skill set, you might need more. You might need a saw. You might need an axe. You might need all sorts of other things. So there's a ton of big list of things that you can put into your backpack, but it obviously makes your backpack much, much heavier. Same with food. If you know how to get food from the nature, you don't need to carry your food. Food takes a lot of space and also a lot of weight. And then also, when you start with it, as I said, prioritize, start small. You don't have to spend a lot of money on it. And also, when we speak of having a backpack, so this would be now an emergency backpack that we are talking about, but also having kind of a go bag, kind of an emergency bag in your car. For example, you're a businessman and you're traveling for your job, and the grid goes down and you're 150 miles away from your family. And so how do you get home? You have your dress shirt, your dress shoes, your I don't know, your nice business clothes. So, and it might be winter. How do you get home? So have something in your car. So where do you start? That's how I started. I had some old winter clothes and winter stuff in my car at all times. So I had some old hats, some old boots that were still okay, but not my primary boots, but secondary boots. So they were still good. I could walk with them for a long time, but I didn't need them on a daily basis. So I put them in the car, and I put put a hat into my car and some gloves and so on and some old outdoor pants and stuff like this. So in case something happened, I could just change my clothes and I would have like a very basic survival set. And then you can go on. You can just have a little backpack in your trunk and with an old sleeping bag or some emergency blankets. A little food, it's like freeze-dried food or something like this. Just think about it. What do you need when you're somewhere and a catastrophe happens? What do you need to get home to your family? Because your family needs you then.
Right. And again, it sounds crazy and maybe it doesn't happen. Maybe there's no end of the world in our lifetimes except for our own ends of the world. But what does it hurt? What does it hurt? Seriously, what does it hurt having a small backpack with old clothes in your car?
It actually has a lot of advantages because you go somewhere, you don't prepare for a hike, but then your friends say, hey, come on, let's go on a hike. And you don't have your clothes with you, but you have your backpack and you have your secondary hiking boots in your trunk, and you say, hey, yeah, cool. Let's do this. And you have everything with you. So even on a daily basis, it helped me a lot having this stuff with me, because I go out of the house and I don't take a jacket with me because I just know I have a jacket in my car, so I don't have to think about everything. And if I forget something, I know I still have some money in my backpack, some cash, and so even if I forget my wallet, I know, okay,
where's your backpack,
I have
by
this.
Just kidding.
In my car, it's locked. And so it actually has a lot of advantages, and it's the same with your backpack. With your emergency backpack that you have at home, during the summer I just keep my winter stuff in my backpack, and they're stored there, and I find them whenever I need them next winter. How many people have the problem? Winter is coming, and the first days they run through the whole house through the basement and trying to find their winter stuff. I have it in my backpack, and I might have 2 pairs of gloves, so always, even during the winter, 1 pair of gloves is in the backpack, the other one is being used by myself. So after I use it, they're being dried, they go back to the backpack, or they are washed or whatever. And so I always have, I'm rotating my things in and out of the backpack as I need them, and I just, my stuff has a place where it has to be, and I just don't have to search for it every time. So when I go on a trip to Scandinavia, my backpack's almost already ready. So I just put some new food in it, maybe something else that I don't need in the emergency backpack, but which I need in this specific region. And it's way more comfortable. You are to do other things. So you just have your stuff in order.
Right, and I mean, on top of being an insurance policy, which is, I think, the most important, it's being manly. It's being prepared. I mean, it's like, I mean, if anyone listens or watches Jordan Peterson, he's not perfect, but I like a lot of what he says, because it's before we take care of any other issues in the world or big issues, you have to have, your room has to be clean. You know, he always says that you have to have a clean room. Oh. And yeah, Raphy doesn't. I don't have a very clean room either. But the idea is that take care of your own problems before you try to fix any others, and that's really important. I think having plans and being prepared and in having a clean house, these types of things are important, and they are things that reflect on you, and they are things that are Catholic. These are important. They are important to be neat and to be prepared and to have a plan. And I think we got to remember that, and don't think of it as just being this extreme crazy thing. I think it can absolutely be crazy, and people can obsess over it, and that's bad. I think Raphy and I both totally agree with that. But it just doesn't hurt to be ready. And again, the 4 things, like we said, the being physically fit, good insurance policy, good in normal life. Having skills, good insurance policy, good in normal life. What is it going to hurt to be able to start a fire? You want to go camping with your kids or with your friends? It's just good to be able to do that. This is a very simple thing that doesn't take long to learn, and it's fun. Go do it with your friends. I mean, this is not, you don't lose anything from this. Zero. Zilch. And
you actually gain a lot.
Totally.
Like, think about what do you want to do with your kids. Going camping with your kids is awesome. I mean, your kids will love it. and they will learn a lot from it. They're out in the nature. It's good for them. It's good for their health, and it's good for you and your health and your mental health as well. And do it, and you have a lot of good time with your kids and a lot of good memories as well. And it also keeps your kids away from trouble and from too long hours at the computers playing video games and stuff like this. So there's also, do it with your wife, do it with your friends, have a group of men with who you like to do things like this.
And that in itself is really rewarding. I mean, Raphy and I've done trips which were extremely challenging. We can talk about on another podcast. We can go into depth of our trip through Hungary. But extremely challenging and really, really difficult, and honestly sometimes extremely miserable. But they're absolutely the things I remember most from the last 10 years. They're things that really stick with me, and they're really rewarding, and things that were fun. I mean, we did it with a bunch of guys, or 4 guys for that trip, and it was really great. They're things that really stick with you, and that's, I mean, it's worth it. Go find your friends, go bring them out, go say, hey guys, let's go and plan it for next summer. It doesn't have to be now. Go say, hey, look, let's go. Hey, come here to Germany. We'll go hiking or camping. I mean, totally. I mean, these are things that I think it's really important, and that we need to be a community. And that was the third point: be a community and be in this together and talk about it and learn. I mean, like I said, if you have questions for Raphy, I think he'd be willing to answer them. Now, comment on this video and we'll see if maybe we can get you in contact with Raphy, because he has plenty of more information. I can tell you that for sure. He did a talk last year sometime, I think was a few hours. I mean, it's endless, and it's really endless, and Raphy studied it up a lot, and he's got a lot of knowledge in the area. And I think that, this show is an hour, 20 minutes or so, and then that you're not going to learn that much. This is really basic information, but there's really endless amounts of stuff if you're interested in this. And that's interest in physical fitness, that's interest in skills, it's interest in what kind of catastrophe can happen. Now, that side, I think don't focus on, but it's okay to know about. Know what would happen if there is an ion bomb or whatever it is. I think these are good things to be aware of, but not obsessed over. And then, the last one, having a backpack. Raphy definitely, he brought up, or I think my wife brought up a 3-page summary of what can go in your backpack with, list A, list B, list, like priorities. So it's really endless. So if you have any questions, just shoot us a comment. I think Raphy would be happy to let you know. And heck, who knows? If these things get popular, maybe someday people can come over here and Raphy can do a course, which I think he would probably like very much. But we'll see. We'll cross that bridge if we ever come to it. But definitely shoot us questions. I don't know. You have anything else you want to say?
No, not so
far. I think we covered everything. So I think it was fun.
I mean, we didn't cover
of course
everything. We probably covered only a very little bit of it.
Tip of the iceberg. Tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. But maybe it kind of starts your interest.
Exactly.
And also, you don't have to be an expert, and you don't necessarily have to contact an expert for it. Like, a very good start is think about it yourself. Like, if you have a quiet minute, sit on the couch, close your eyes, think about what happens if the grid goes down. What won't work anymore? Which things can you not use anymore, and so on. And then that gives you an idea of what you need then, and then what happens afterwards. What happens after 1 week? How much food do others have? So when will it get really, really dangerous? Because it's getting chaotic. And also about daily things. Like, think about what happens if I'm there in this street with my wife and I get attacked by 3 guys that want to have my money or want to kill me and my wife or whatever. And think about it. Am I prepared for it? Am I fit for it? And this is the start where you start, and then you will, by yourself, you'll find the ideas what to do.
Right. And I think this podcast has been mostly focused on talking to men, and in the importance of being manly and finding ways to find the confidence in yourself. But confidence in yourself, it's earned. You have to earn it. You have to earn that confidence. And part of that is through doing these things to be able to have confidence in yourself. You can't just, snap your fingers and you have confidence. And that's important in relationships and in life. You need to have confidence. And to do that, you need to fight for it and you need to earn it. For women, anyone who's stuck through this entire show, thanks for listening. I hope there have been things that are interesting also for women. I think that whatever happens in the world, it's going to happen to you as well too. We don't mean to say like, hey, this doesn't matter for you, but in these circumstances, I think it is important that it is led by men. I think that is how it should be. And I think that men should be the ones who take charge of these matters and should take them into their own hands. Now, women, obviously, especially if you're single and you're on your own, of course, you need to learn these things too, and it would never hurt. This is not just saying women just sit at home and sew. Of course not. Definitely. I mean, these things, it would not hurt you at all. It doesn't hurt anyone to learn these things and to be physically fit and to learn how to build a fire and all these things. And I ideally you have some men in your life that can take this on. But if there aren't, and there are a bunch of these, soy boy modern men, then yeah, you've got to do it. And it's unfortunate.
You might have to take charge, and
you may have to be able to carry them.
Yes, and also, I mean, especially in such a scenario, your husband might die, pretty easily by something. He might get shot, he might get killed, he might have an accident, and then you have to take over. So I would say, as a good husband, you teach your kids, you teach your wife, you don't exaggerate it, like make it also fun, especially with your kids, make it fun. Exercise with them, drill fire, make a fire. Do things like this, build a shelter outside and sleep there. Do it in your backyard, and when it's getting too cold, you can still go inside. Don't make it extreme. Make it fun. And also, also to the ladies, it doesn't hurt to have those skills, and it might help. And you might get different skills than your husband, for example. Right. You might be a nurse, you might have a very, very important skill, medical skills and things like this, or you might be an engineer or something like this. And so it's like in always in marriage, if your husband has those skills and you have the other skills, combined, you're way more stronger. Right.
And it brings to mind, I read a book, I don't know, last year about the World War II and when the Germans invaded Russia. And it's pretty fascinating and a pretty tragic story. But anyway, obviously the Germans eventually got kicked out and pushed back. And part of it was, even though the men were dying, the Russian men were dying by the millions practically. They were just an unbelievable casualty rate. Once the Germans got really deep in Russia, part of what killed them obviously was the weather and the snow. And part of it was because the women were so totally brutal and totally prepared and totally tough and totally able to take over for their dead husbands that they really helped propel back the Germans. So this is absolutely true. This is not at all an indictment saying women are not as tough as men. It's definitely the opposite. I watched my wife give birth, so definitely women are in some ways tougher than men, no question. So I mean, it is, but it is also, it is the manly duty. And the women, this is really important too. I know we're going to talk forever here, but this is really important. And I really mean this, that as important as it is for men to be manly, it's as important for women to let men be manly.
Yes.
Let them be manly. Let them lead. Force them to lead. They must lead, because that is what both men and women want. They might be told by society that they don't. They might think they don't, but it's absolutely wrong. Yeah. Men must lead. Women must follow. And that's how it must be. Make sure you have that in relationships, that if the man won't lead, then, well, and nothing happens. It shouldn't happen.
And if in a marriage, you say the man is the muscle of the body of marriage, then the woman would be the backbone and the bones of it. So without the woman, the man still needs the support from the woman, and the woman makes him much stronger in a lot of ways.
Exactly. And that's the important, yeah, right, exactly. And support him in his manliness. Now, it's a hard line when you have a lazy man and you don't want to just nag him. But yeah, I mean, give him ways, try to let him know how important it is for you, for him to be manly. And I think that's how you kind of have to go about it. Don't just nag him. Find some way to make him realize that you want someone who's strong. You want someone who can take care of you. You want someone with skills. And I think that
Yes.
That's what both sides want eventually. Men want it too. They've just, the society and the world and the devil are telling them that they don't want it, but they do. They do. You do want to be manly, and it's absolutely important. And right now, society is on an all out battle to try to ruin men and families. So let's fight it. Be manly, men, women. Please let them be manly. And I think we'll end on that with my manly friend Raphy. It's been fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me here.
Absolutely. And we'll maybe we'll do it again sometime. If we get enough interest, then we'll talk about, I don't know.
Let us know what you want to hear about.
Yeah, exactly. What do you want Raphy to talk about? He can tell you more about his trips through Scandinavia, or maybe someday we'll do a little video about our trip through Hungary. It's not very productive though, so maybe we'll find slightly more productive topics. But it's been fun. We'll talk to you guys again in the next podcast. I'm Kevin. God bless, and we will talk to you later.